In the forgotten white-hued city of Flevance, nestled deep within the unforgiving North Blue, Trafalgar Law was born into a world that shimmered with a deceptive beauty, even as it concealed an unimaginable horror. Known as the White City, for the brilliant amber hue of the lead extracted from its mines, Flevance was a place of paradox, prosperity and hope intertwined with a slow, creeping death. Law's early life was cradled by the gentle care of his parents, both skilled physicians and the loving presence of his younger sister. Their humble home was filled with stories of courage and adventure, most notably the thrilling escapades of Sola, the warrior of the sea that lit a fierce spark in Law's heart and instilled in him a deep-seated disdain for those he came to view as villains, like the infamous Germa 66. Yet behind this innocent wonder lurked a grim destiny. From the moment of his birth, Law was a witness to the unrelenting spread of amber-lead poisoning, a toxic curse that festered within the city's veins. As the disease claimed more lives, its symptoms became impossible to ignore. But rather than confront the truth, both the world government and the royal family chose to hide this deadly secret. Even as Flevance's citizens began to wither away, rumors of contagion spread unchecked, igniting a brutal war with neighboring nations desperate to halt the perceived threat. Amid the chaos, Law's parents strove valiantly to help their people, fighting against insurmountable odds with limited supplies and dwindling hope. Their tireless efforts could not, however, shield their own family from the looming tragedy, especially as Law's beloved sister sank deeper into the grip of the disease. In a desperate bid to salvage young lives from the inferno of war and sickness, a local nun emerged as a beacon of compassion. Gathering the children to flee the doomed island, she implored Law to leave with her. Torn by the duty he felt toward his ailing sister, he refused her plea. In that heartbreaking moment, the nun vowed she would return for him and tend to his sister at the hospital, confident that his father's unparalleled skill would soon conquer the illness. But fate is often cruel. In an instant that would forever scar his soul, a ruthless extermination team descended upon Flevance. Law stood paralyzed as his parents were executed before his very eyes, their sacrifice swallowed by a maelstrom of violence and despair. As the hospital where his sister clung to life was engulfed in flames, the nun and her companions were brutally slain. Amidst the carnage, a broken Law managed to escape the quarantine by hiding among the lifeless bodies that were being carted away. With his family lost and his heart ablaze with a seething resentment for a world that had abandoned him, Law transformed into a nihilistic force cone driven by a desperate need for retribution against everyone and everything. His path of vengeance soon led him to Spider Miles, where he would take an even darker turn. Now known as Trafalgar D. Waterlaw, he joined the infamous Don Quixote pirates, alongside figures such as Baby 5 and Buffalo. In a cold declaration, he revealed that the cruel hand of fate had granted him only 3 years and 2 months to live due to his rare and terminal disease, and he vowed to annihilate anyone who dared cross his path during that time. It was at this juncture that Law first encountered the enigmatic Corazon. In a moment of startling betrayal, Corazon hurled Law out of a window, a shocking act that, instead of breaking him, ignited an unquenchable flame of retribution deep within his soul. As Law struggled to make sense of this act, he swore silently that he would one day exact a terrible revenge on Corazon. In the tense corridors of the Don Quixote crew, Doflamingo's ominous warning reverberated. He would spare no one who dared harm his precious younger brother. This decree, delivered with icy detachment, only served to deepen the rift between loyalty and betrayal among the crew. When Baby 5 derided Law's vengeful thoughts as the ramblings of a fool, a flash of fury passed through Law's eyes so intense that even a silent glance could unmoor the fragile calm of those around him. In that charged atmosphere, Jorah's alarm grew as she noticed Law's face had turned deathly pale, a stark sign of the amber lead syndrome that plagued him. A heated confrontation ensued. Buffalo, reacting with harsh hostility, ordered Law to keep his distance, while Doflamingo dismissed the severity of the condition, insisting that it was merely a type of poisoning and not contagious as the fearful rumors suggested. Seizing the opportunity to assert his pain as retribution, Law acted with brutal precision. In a moment that would forever alter the course of his life, he plunged his blade into Corazon's back, a swift, savage act meant to right the endless scales of injustice. As Buffalo scrambled to alert Doflamingo that Law had violated the sacred blood code, Law swiftly quashed the alarm with a simple, underhanded bribe, a trivial ice cream that symbolized the twisted barter of hope and despair in a shattered world. Despite the alliances he was forced into, Law's heart remained a fortress of mistrust, especially toward those who claimed loyalty without honor. When he attempted to flee the chaos that ensued, he was captured by Jorah and Makvise and delivered into the unforgiving custody of Doflamingo himself. There, in the cold, shadowed depths of Doflamingo's presence, Law was confronted with an even deeper mystery. Corazon was not dead after all. This revelation not only intensified his internal torment, but also raised unsettling questions about the secret behind the D that marked his very name. With a detached finality, Doflamingo formally welcomed Law into the fold of the Don Quixote pirates, a move that left him both stunned and filled with bitter uncertainty. Why had Corazon not spoken of his supposed betrayal? The questions gnawed at Law's soul, intertwining his desire for revenge with a growing curiosity about the hidden truths of his own identity. Ever the puppeteer, Doflamingo offered Law a sliver of hope amid his despair. Aware that Law's rare disease left him with only a short time to live, he proposed a perilous wager. If Law could locate a devil fruit with the power to heal, he might not only cheat death, but also rise to become his trusted right-hand man in a decade's time. This tantalizing promise dangled the possibility of life and power before Law's eyes, a prospect as seductive as it was dangerous. Adding another twist to the already tangled web, Doflamingo casually revealed that he had discovered a fatal wound in Corazon, a detail that would haunt Law as he wrestled with the meaning of loyalty, betrayal, and the price of vengeance. Before the storm of fate could settle, the turbulent seas of Spider Miles threw Law into further peril. Amid a fierce confrontation with the notorious pirate Wellington, whose attempt on Law's life seemed almost inevitable, Baby Five fought desperately to shield him. Bullets rained down in a chaotic ballet, yet none could stop the relentless surge of destiny. In a twist that defied all expectations, Law was rescued by an unlikely coalition. Doflamingo, Corazon, and the formidable Pika had come together to pull him from the jaws of death. Under their grim tutelage, Law began to learn the ruthless arts of strategy, martial combat, artillery precision, and even the elegant skill of swordsmanship. Each lesson, each drop of blood and sweat, forged him further into the man he was destined to become. A man molded by loss, forged in pain, and driven by a singular burning desire for vengeance. The journey that followed marked the darkest chapter of Law's life, a desperate search for a cure, a sacrifice that shattered all hope, and a betrayal that would forever scar his soul. In the aftermath of the tumult in Spider Miles, Law's fragile existence grew ever more precarious. His body, ravaged by the relentless progression of Amber Lead syndrome, began to betray him as white patches spread ominously across his skin. In this dire moment, the revelation of his full name, Trafalgar D. Waterlaw, unfolded in a storm of secrecy and painful truths. The D remained a mystery, an enigma that hinted at a legacy far beyond his comprehension, while Water recalled the name of his departed mother, a bittersweet reminder of what he had lost. It was during these dark days that Corazon re-emerged as both guide and guardian. Having once again taken Law against his will, Corazon embarked on a desperate mission to find a cure for his comrade's cursed condition. Their journey led them through countless hospitals where, time and again, Law was met not with compassion, but with horror, as if he were a monstrous abomination unworthy of help. Every door closed and every rejection forced him to relive the traumatic memories of Flavance, the day his world had collapsed into ashes. Yet, even as despair threatened to drown him, the bond between Law and Corazon grew stronger, forged in shared suffering and the slim hope of salvation. One fateful night, after 6 agonizing months of fruitless searching, the weight of hopelessness finally drove Corazon to tears. Overcome by the realization that all their efforts might be in vain, he wept not only for Law's impending demise, but also for the irreversible scars etched into their souls. In that moment of vulnerability, a small beacon of hope arrived, a call through Corazon's Den Den Mushi that shattered the silence of the night. The voice on the other end belonged to Doflamingo, bearing news that seemed too miraculous to be real. A cure might exist in the form of the devil fruit known as Ope Ope. According to Doflamingo's plan, if Rocinante could ingest the fruit, not merely to heal Law, but to sacrifice his own life in the process, it would bestow immortality and the power to defy death's finality. Law, whose heart trembled between disbelief and desperate yearning, could scarcely accept such an impossible promise. For him, the idea of a cure was as fantastical as the legends of his childhood. Doflamingo's plan was laden with irony and peril. He insisted that it must be Law who consumed the fruit, yet the rules of the devil fruits dictated that possessing two would be fatal. Undeterred, Corazon argued that it was imperative for Law to claim the miraculous power, even if it meant defying fate and the very laws of nature. The plan was fraught with risk. They would have to steal the Op fruit right under the noses of their enemies, a mission that would pit them against Doflamingo, the Marines, and even the mighty world government. Thus began the perilous journey to Minion Island, where every step was a dance with death. As they neared their destination, Law confided in Corazon a grim secret. From the moment the toxic amber lead was unearthed, the world government had known that Flevence's people were doomed, yet they had allowed it all to happen for the sake of profit. In a charged moment of bitter revelation, Law questioned whether Corazon was, in fact, one of the Marines. The answer came swiftly, a denial that offered Law a fleeting sense of relief, even as it underscored the treacherous web of allegiances in which they were entangled. On Minion Island, they arrived at a ghostly village, a long-abandoned outpost once home to the notorious Barrels pirates. It was here that Corazon took the opportunity to demonstrate the full extent of his powers. With a sudden burst of energy, he created a soundproof barrier to shield their whispered secrets, revealing his mastery of the Nagi fruit in a dazzling display. Even as Law marveled at his companion's abilities, a part of him clung to the cynical notion that even Baby Five's clumsy talents could sometimes be more useful than such arcane powers. Yet there was no time for mockery, for the mission was dire. Without warning, Corazon dashed off to execute the theft of the devil fruit from the heavily guarded hideout of Diaz Barrels, leaving Law alone in the biting cold with only a threadbare blanket for comfort. Moments later, the distraught yet determined Corazon returned with the coveted Ope fruit, cradled in his arms. With trembling insistence, he ordered Law to consume the fruit, promising that its mystical properties could heal him and defy the inexorable march of his disease. Law's voice wavered with fear and uncertainty. He questioned the fruit's power and his own readiness to embrace such a radical change. In a heart-wrenching confrontation, Corazon forced him to swallow the fruit, a moment that simultaneously gifted Law newfound power and sealed the irrevocable pact between them. The fragile hope that now sparked within Law was shattered almost as quickly as it had ignited. No sooner had he gained the power of the Op fruit than fate delivered another cruel twist. As Corazon lay bleeding and weakened, a casualty of the daring heist, their victory tasted bitter. In the ensuing chaos, Law witnessed Corazon's agonizing struggle to use his own abilities to mend his wounds, only to be reminded that even magic had its limits. Overwhelmed by guilt and despair at the loss of the one person who had fought so relentlessly for his survival, Law could only watch in horror as his savior bled out on the cold, unforgiving floor of the ship. Yet the nightmare was not over. In the midst of their escape, a band of Marines emerged, intent on retrieving a mysterious letter that Corazon had entrusted to Law, a letter that held the key to saving the beleaguered kingdom of Dressrosa. As Law sprinted to deliver the letter, he encountered a lone Marine separated from the group. Desperate and confused, he implored the man for help, only to be met with unexpected resistance. The encounter turned violent when the Marine revealed himself to be Vergo, a figure whose very presence deepened the mystery and treachery swirling around Law's fate. In a shocking display of betrayal, Vergo smashed the letter to pieces and attacked Corazon with merciless fury, forcing Law to watch helplessly as the man he had come to rely on was brutally beaten. Amid the cacophony of gunfire and the clamor of clashing forces, Law's anguished cries were swallowed by the chaos of battle. Desperately, Corazon managed to secure Law inside a locked chest, using every ounce of his power to keep Doflamingo and the Marines at bay. From within that confining prison, Law listened in disbelief as Doflamingo's cold voice promised death, and the betrayal of trust rang out like a death knell. Then Doflamingo asks, "Where is the Ope fruit and Law?" Where Rocinante answers that he is gone from the island. Doflamingo is so mad at him and tells his partners to go and look for him. Doflamingo wanted Law because of the power of the fruit that could give eternal life to someone the user wants. Then Baby Five confirms a boy has been taken by the Navy, but it was not Law because he was there inside the cage listening to everything it's being say. Then the most tragic moments comes in when Doflamingo eliminates his brother Rocinante, just like he did with his dad, and tells Rocinante he was as weak as his father. In the final moments before the ship's departure, with the roar of cannons drowning out his screams, Law broke free from his confinement and fled in the opposite direction, his cries of despair lost amidst the din of war. In the aftermath of this relentless torrent of betrayal and bloodshed, Law's shattered spirit led him to the remote island Swallow. Alone and wounded, he found refuge in a modest village where fate introduced him to Wolf, a kind, elderly farmer and inventor who took the broken young man in and offered him shelter in exchange for hard work. Slowly, with the help of Wolf's gentle guidance, Law began to heal not just his physical wounds, but also the deep scars etched into his soul.